Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to another edition of Final Cut. But this time with a difference. It is now called the Directors Edition. And with me, we have my usual co-host, Michael Fraser. But this time, as you can plainly see, we have a new co-host. So everyone, please welcome Mikey. So with that said, it is DC Fandom Weekend. So since you two are comic book nerds, and I'm sort of coming into one, I thought we could see what's gone on and review it from there. So who would like to start with what?
Hey, experience before beauty.
I suppose since Wonder Woman 1984 was the first one I sort of watched first, so I suppose we could talk about that. It is actually nice to actually have a full visual of Cheetah. I mean, I'm not quite sure I agree with the CGI get-up of it, but it only took 2 full trailers to see what she looks like, and aside from looking like something out of Cats, she doesn't look too bad.
It is almost necessary, in my opinion, though, to have a CGI-esque thing to her because all the movements that Cheetah does as far as fighting style-wise. It does look like a step of Cats. I think James Corden might love it a little bit, but other than the atrocious look, I'm gonna dare say atrocious. I really feel like the CGI was kind of the right step to go for the Cheetah character.
Yeah, maybe, but maybe there's such a thing as too much CGI. Maybe just like a little bit, but not too much.
Right.
Do you guys know what this movie's about, plot-wise?
They haven't really revealed much plot-wise about what this movie's about. I kind of thought it was just going to have to do with the dagger.
Yeah, I actually sort of know it because I actually saw a spoiler review of it, basically what it's about. And basically, when Pedro Pascal's, who is it he plays? He was in Supergirl first season. Maxwell Lord. He actually has something. It's kind of like a genie, only it's not, and it grants you wishes of whatever you want. That's why Chris Pine, Steve Trevor comes back. That's why Cheetah sort of goes from being like a nerdy geek into like a really confident woman because that's what she wants. That's what she's wishing for. As for everything else, I think it's a case of basically Maxwell Lord wishes for the world and he becomes US president. So I suppose that's fair enough. But I am more interested to see how they're going to go from here because, rumour has it, 84 is supposed to be a soft reboot of the DCEU.
You know,
they could use it.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just saying they could use that soft reboot, in my opinion.
It kind of reminds me of, remember back in the day when Wonder Woman worked at like that boutique and everything? When they were taking that odd approach of her? It kind of reminds me of that, but thankfully they're not taking that approach. That's what I got from the vibes of some of the fight locations.
Thankfully.
And with how Steve Trevor was. Like when they had that odd thing at the end when he's like trying on different clothes because he doesn't know like what's hip anymore.
And a fanny pack as well, for God's sake.
Yeah.
The dynamic of Cheetah and Diana, Wonder Woman, kind of bothers me. You know, as a classic comic book fan, you know there's a version of Cheetah that is actually an Amazonian, a sister of Diana, Minerva. Yeah. You know, that dynamic. But, you know, it don't really fit too well in this movie. But, you know, that's just me.
So do you guys know anything, if there's anything from it from the actual Wonder Woman comics? Because they always fill trailers with nothing but Easter eggs. That you know of.
So far I've just noticed like one of her armors. It reminds me of the one she kind of had in the Kingdom.
Yeah, I was curious about that.
With like the eagle head and everything, how it looks. It reminds me a lot of that version of Wonder Woman.
Is there actually is the plot actually derived from a comic book storyline of hers?
Judging from the trailer, I can't really tell. But I haven't really deep dived into Wonder Woman in some years, so there's no telltale sign to me that it's following a certain trail that was blazed.
But Batman v Superman was based on The Dark Knight Returns, so I'm not going to dismiss it, but then again, it is a possibility. After all, this is Jeff Johns doing majority of this behind the DCEU, so there's no reason why it's not behind something. I mean, Batman's always been, I'll say, the easier one because there's tons. I mean, Chris Nolan took what's it? Oh God, I'm a Chris Nolan fan. I can't remember which Batman it was. Dark Knight Rises. He took that from No Man's Land, and the one where he breaks his back. What's it called? Is it called
Nightfall?
It is, isn't it?
That's Nightfall. Yeah.
So with Chris Nolan setting the trend in comic book movies the way he has, you will assume that there is actually a Wonder Woman comic book story behind it, but we just don't know what it is. But it will be interesting to see what they do with it. I mean, that same director's on. Obviously, Gal Gadot's there. They'll know. They both know what to do. So it'll just be a case of where they go from. I'll say where they go from here, because if it is a soft reboot, then anything's possible.
True. So do you think if they're soft rebooting, with the new Batman that's coming out, do you think he'll be at it? Because Ben Affleck, he's doing that last one shot with the Snyder Cut in the Flash movie. But do you think that he'll be dragged into this new soft reboot as well?
I'm glad you kind of said that, because I actually read something before we came on, and apparently that Robert Pattinson's Batman is like a year two, because year one was when he first started out. So obviously, I think it's basically set in the DCEU. It's just in a different different multiverse, if you'll pardon the Crisis on Infinite Earths pun there. Whether it is or not is a different story, because, well, let's face it, it's a DCEU. The complication runs in it.
It's facts.
Got anything else to add, gentlemen, or is that it?
As far as Wonder Woman?
As far as I'm concerned, that's it. I just basically comment on what I see, that's it.
I'm hoping Steve Trevor doesn't end up getting, like, the Captain Marvel treatment. Where Nick Fury was kind of, like, there, but he didn't really get to do much. I'm kind of hoping we still get, like, that bit of action Steve Trevor had in that first film.
Well, I saw in the trailer he's actually flying Wonder Woman's invisible jet, and yes, that is in it, because there's no other explanation about how she flies.
I kind of expect him to make an egotistical comment. You know how he's like, I'm above average? I kind of want to see him, like, walk around modern day and he'd be like, I'm still above average.
It's like, no, you're far below average.
It'd be really funny.
Right, so we'll stick with movies, and since we are talking about Wonder Woman, we might as well move straight on to The Batman.
Oh, The Batman. Yeah.
You two are the experts. I'm assuming you two know what this plot is based on.
From what I've heard, they're pulling from Scott Snyder's Year Zero for this one. Because in that one, there's a few differences. Because I've noticed he's been going up against guys and they have like face paint, but in the storyline, he was fighting like the Red Hood gang before Joker became Joker. Right. And Bruce was probably like 19 at this point, where he just came back to Gotham. So it looks like they're pulling from those days.
Isn't the major plot based around? Is it the Long Halloween?
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing too.
So for the uneducated, such as myself, what is that story about?
It's a story that involves Two-Face. It's probably the most iconic Two-Face story in all of Batman. Because at that time, there weren't a lot of Two-Face stories going on. Like, he's in Death of the Family for a bit, but he doesn't have that much of an impact. But when you recommend Two-Face stories, it would be this or All-Star Batman, if you were going to read any of them.
And we've had our first look at, obviously, Jeffrey Wright's Commissioner Gordon and Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. I might just point out before we go on, I didn't really think Zoe Kravitz would make a good Catwoman.
I had my doubts, too.
Yeah. But the thing is, we just basically have our doubts. We don't literally go full sail and say, nah, she's really rubbish, and then go on change.org or whatever it is and say, yeah, we need a new Catwoman, and then basically get everyone to sign it. Yeah, we're not like that. We just say what we think and then just pass judgment after it's been released and we've had a look. But I must admit, I kind of like how she looks. I'm not quite sure about the balaclava as such, but then again, maybe there's something else that we've not seen yet.
Yeah, I didn't get a whole bunch from the trailer from her anyway. I think there's this little trickle of what she can do. I mean, I'm on the fence. But, I've not been really impressed with a lot of Catwomans they've been using lately.
Oh, Anne Hathaway, mate, she was my dream. She was the best. She's the best Catwoman I've ever seen. But then put it this way, it doesn't take much to better Halle Berry, does it? Let's be honest.
Well, I'm still partial to Eartha Kitt, so that's a little bit a ways back. Perfect,
So, what do we? All right, we've seen the trailer. We've seen Robert Pattinson.
Michelle Pfeiffer will always be Catwoman.
Yeah,
so.
Very true.
Michelle Pfeiffer? Michelle Pfeiffer?
It's Catwoman in Batman Returns. I remember actually it was Tim Burton's phase as well. All right, chaps. We've seen the Pattinson as Batman. What do we think?
I was actually impressed a little bit. I like the voice is a big thing for me. If you're not booming with, you're talking to the villains with your raspy darkness, I'm not sold unless I got that Batman chill from him, and I like the action. The beatdown might have been a little excessive, but hey, we've all played the Arkham games.
Yeah, and bearing in mind it is year 2 as well, so he's only just starting out. So I wonder if the no kill rule will come into effect as well.
Well, Gotham, it makes sense because the stuff Bruce is up against, he kind of has to be a little more like reckless and more brute force because you see him in the games and a lot of the versions, like he's jacked as can be, and he's like going toe to toe against like 18 different guys most of the time. So I can understand in that city you gotta set the standard.
Yeah, it's kind of like Arkham Origins where he was literally a younger Batman who was still making mistakes. So that is fair enough and point taken. I must admit, I have my doubts because obviously everyone has been bringing up the fact that he was in Twilight. Let's judge him by that. But he has actually done some quite gritty roles since Twilight. That's probably why he's got it, because he's sort of brought a new dimension. In fact, and I actually have seen this. I've actually seen something about it. When he was actually filming Chris Nolan's new movie, Tenet, he actually told Chris that he had to go and take a family emergency. And then when he came back, Chris Nolan just went to him straight and said, "You were auditioning for Batman, weren't you?" It's like nothing gets past him.
I liked at the end of the trailer when he pulls off the mask, like he's got that glare down too. And I like that they actually left in the thing around like the eyes and stuff. And from what I noticed, they actually gave like the white lenses from some of the stuff I've seen. So I like all the little details.
I suppose it's quite important, isn't it, to please the comic book fans, because comic book fans aren't exactly I'll not say the easiest to please, but they're not exactly the hardest to get over either.
No, a lot of them are quite passionate, so.
See, the argument for me is, I don't want it like word for word, scene for scene, what I've seen in the comics, but I want it damn close. Because the characters are built in such a way that I'm adjusted to that as a fan. Like Bane, especially in The Dark Knight, I'm not a big fan. Sorry, unpopular opinion.
No, fair enough.
I don't like the Sean Connery accent. He should be a luchador, point blank and simple. That is Bane.
Yeah. I must admit, I was quite impressed with Tom Hardy, especially the physique he put on, because he's not really a muscular built guy, is he? But I must admit, it was because I actually saw the prologue when I went to see Mission Impossible 4, I think it was. So I'm kind of glad that they did something about that, because when he talked, you could hardly hear him, and I kept thinking, can I actually hear him, or am I going deaf? But nah, I couldn't hear him until he actually physically dubbed it over in the final cut. No pun intended.
Did you guys hear the rumor about Batman's symbol for his costume, what they're saying about it?
Yeah, isn't it made from Joe Chill's gun?
That's what I've been hearing, and if that's the approach they take, that'd be interesting.
That's a good take.
Approach. Right, chaps, can we think of anything else about the Batman? Oh, yeah, what do we think about Andy Serkis's Alfred that we've seen? Because we haven't really seen that much, but I actually kind of think that we are actually running out of old Englishmen to play Alfred. Give it 30 years and I'll probably end up playing him at this rate.
I'm hoping he has that spunk, that Alfred usually has.
Yeah.
Like Bruce
you gotta have that.
And it'll give him like the toot and everything. I'm also hoping they'll do like, you know how Ben Affleck's fighting style with Batman, like he was incorporating like his grappling hook, the batarangs, a few other things. I'm hoping we'll see like that, and maybe like some like tech backfiring on him since it's like his first year, and we see him like improvise in the spot, like picking up like a sewer grate or like using like things from Gotham to actually like fight back in those early years.
Yeah, kind of making him look a bit more human, I think, is the angle that we're going for here.
Because like he's not like the Batman yet, so it'd be interesting. Like not like Batman Begins, like beginning, maybe like a mix of like Keaton and that, like that bit more of the mysterious aspect, but like there's still like he's still kind of human now before he is the Batman type thing, before he
Yeah.
gets like full on just like smashing you toe to toe, busting your ribs.
Well, I think that a lot of it, they're trying to build that, that mystique. Like, you can't just be a guy in a bat suit. Show up in a burglary, beat somebody up, and like, hey, we all fear this guy. First of all, you think the guy's nuts. It's a guy in a black costume with a bat symbol. Come on. But, you have to like build that mystique. And I think if you're going year 2 with it, year 1, year 2 with it, I think that's a good look because we're trying to build a different movie for this Batman versus like what we've all seen before.
Yeah.
Honestly, that scene got me like when he's going up against all the guys and you just see him like brawling and he's in the middle of them all. It's like I remember seeing like comic panels of that when he's fighting all these like weird doll things with blades and he's just like smashing everything out of the air, like holding his spot. I love that in trailer when he's doing it and you see him pop up with the grappling hook and it's like, who are you? And he's just like, bam! Like it, like there when he did that and he's like doing that thing, like he had me right there. Like I've seen that pose a million times and he just had it like picture perfect.
Now, I should just point out, chaps, we have seen in the trailer, we saw obviously Batman, we saw Commissioner Gordon, we saw Catwoman. Apparently, we saw Riddler. I'm not too sure about that, but then again, I did sort of have a quick look this morning and basically do this over that. So, but apparently, Riddler. Mind you, he'd be the one leaving over clues, wouldn't he? But yeah, no sign of a Penguin yet, which I'm really interested to see how they've put Colin Farrell as him. Obviously, I wonder if he'll have the old one lens eyepiece that he has.
Ooh, the monocle? Yeah, you might have to have that.
I would actually like to see an Irish penguin, We've had a Cockney penguin. Why can't we have an Irish penguin?
True.
It'd be interesting because I kind of hope they play him a little bit like Goodfellas, where it's like all business in the front and then like you get like the monster in the back, like the little details like unbuttoning the shirt, like rolling up the sleeves when you're like gonna rough up a guy that owes you money. Because we got so many ridiculous penguins for a while.
Yeah, how many were in the Long Halloween? There was Catwoman, Riddler, Penguin. Who else was there?
Catwoman, I know, is in it. Penguin, I think Penguin's in it. We know Two-Face is in it, but I'm not sure if he'll actually be in this film because I haven't really seen him in the trailer so far.
I haven't seen him either.
In the comic? Was Freeze in the comic too?
I'm pretty sure
Freeze was there.
Isn't there supposed to be like 6 villains in that storyline?
I know Carmine Falcone's in it.
Scarecrow would have to be in there. Maybe Scarecrow?
I think this is when Two-Face really becomes Two-Face. I think that's what the Long Halloween was. Because I know they're doing an animated film too, so it's kind of odd that they're adapting it to live action as well.
Well, there's always a plan with everything that everybody does. All right. I can contain this no longer. What do we think of that new Batmobile? I think it sucks.
It reminds me of the Telltale games. When Bruce red car would shift in the other one? It reminds me of that.
I'm still partial to 89 Batmobile. That will always be my Batmobile.
What winds me up about that is it just looks like a muscle car with flames coming out of a boot. That's all it looks like to me.
Yeah,
I know it's supposed to be like in his say in year 1 or year 2 in this case, but you can still be a bit flamboyant with a Batmobile. Jesus, I mean, look what the British came up with for Chris Nolan's trilogy We came up with a bloody tank.
Yeah, but I think with what he's dealing with right now, like he's probably gonna be ramming that car into things right now. So it's probably just like this is the prototype, and then we'll probably get the better one that he's probably been working on the last couple of years.
Maybe that is a good point. But then again, we all want a Batmobile to be flamboyant. I mean, even in the animated lot where there's actually Batman Year One, I haven't watched it for a while, but I seem to remember that Batmobile was quite good.
Yeah. Then that one, Bruce has like a few of his toys and everything, but like I think this version of Patterson, they're going for more like practicability right now.
Right.
So what do we think will come from the next two trailers before we move on? I would actually like to see every villain in it. I don't want to wait for the very last trailer before we see anybody else, because that was Wonder Woman's problem. We saw Cheetah in the very last trailer, and that disappointed me. So what I'd like to see is all the villains, maybe a bit more of a Batmobile, maybe more of Pattinson, maybe a little bit more, maybe a bit of Alfred, maybe even a exchange between Catwoman and Batman, just so we can see where they are in their relationship. Because obviously, as you two guys know, and I sort of know, they kind of have a bit of a on-off relationship. I mean, they even got married. They tried to get married in one.
That was
didn't they?
Yeah, that was recently. It was I actually own that issue too.
And I know you do. So yeah, I would just like to see something like that, what I've just described, just so we have a benchmark of what we can expect, not what we should expect.
I'd like to see a little bit more Bruce Wayne. Because, that's also
I would
very
agree
big
with you.
part of Batman.
It wasn't really that much.
Like sprinkling Bruce Wayne in there, just don't do it for me. I need to see where his head is at too, because that's the balance. Dark and light, Bruce and Bats.
Uh-huh.
I want to see more of the architect in Bruce. That cool scene in the comics where he has that replica of Gotham and he's giving that speech and you see like that visual of things being out of Gotham. I want to see more like the architect of Bruce, because we don't get that a lot of time. We just get a bit of businessy Bruce, but I want to see like the Bruce that loves Gotham, where he's talking about like improving the city and showing ways he's gonna do it on top of being Batman, because we usually just get the one side. And I know like when you go to see a Batman movie, it's for Batman, but the two identities both dedicate their entire lives for the betterment of Gotham.
It's kind of like how I think Matt Reeves said that this was actually going to be more of a detective Batman than say any of the others. So it would be interesting to have like that version of Bruce Wayne as well as Batman. Right then, since that is Robert Pattinson over and done with, and we can finally tell everyone that he is not anything like he was in Twilight now. What shall we move on to next? We could move on to Suicide Squad since we're on the subject of Batman.
Yeah, we could talk about that. I never thought they'd actually use Peacemaker. Of all the characters they have John Cena as, I didn't think it would be him.
God.
I really wanted Invisible Man to be John Cena. I mean, this would have made sense for me, but I'm just kidding.
You know what? I'm not going to say anything else. You two know your comics. You just take it from here.
Oh man, they're using a lot of old characters like the Polka Dot Man.
That's classic.
I'm not sure who Nathan Fillion's going to be playing. I didn't really get to see him in the trailer when they were listing off like all the characters. But I think a lot of these guys are going to be cannon fodder, just like the more obscure ones, just like what happened with Slipknot in the first one.
Right.
Yeah. After all, you've got to have a Suicide Squad. You can't not have someone commit suicide. That's like having a Batman movie and not having him like be a detective. Oh, sorry, we've always had that, haven't we? So I suppose next question is, what do we think the plot's going to be about?
I think they're going to be sent in. Well, from what we've seen, it's like a battle zone. So I'm guessing they're taking out some kind of dictator or warmonger. Because like the Suicide Squad are the ones you send in to do those gritty missions. And the more they do, the more they shave off like a life sentence or a prison sentence, and they can normally
10
choose to
years
stay.
being mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, because if you have multiple life sentences, you'll pretty much be there until you work off all of it.
Or yeah, all the missions, yeah.
I'm surprised Harley's back though, because of how the first film ended. So
don't forget she's had Birds of Prey as well. So, but I don't know if that's still in the canon or if that's part of a reboot. That's probably the most unsure thing I have. Because you can't have a soft reboot of the DCEU while you're still having Suicide Squad. That's set in the present, which is a bit. I'm guessing that'll be. We'll have that sorted out probably nearer the time. But it is a bit disconcerting considering when you don't actually know what this is part of.
See, I was never really too big on Suicide Squad. I just that's a more recent thing for me, but I love following it now. So I'm hoping for big things for this one.
Well, we hope for big things with the first one. That kind of went a bit pancake, didn't it?
I mean, it did.
But you get some good bits out of it, like I love Jai Courtney's Captain Boomerang.
I do enjoy Captain Boomerang. I'm not sure about this Peacemaker thing though. Yeah, I'm still on the fence.
I have no judgment because I'm not into my comic books. So the minute you say Peacemaker, all I heard from the trailer was he's like a bad Captain America. So
his tagline's like, he loves peace so much he'll kill for it. He was like an old school character who he got more attention once he started showing up in the Blue Beetle comics for Jaime Reyes. He ditched the suit and had like the black shirt, the tats on the face and the arms, and kind of became more of like this biker type.
Did you catch Weasel in there?
Everyone wants a Weasel movie now. Like, that's the one thing I saw the most in the comments section.
It just threw me off. I was like, what? But it's interesting to see for sure.
They have the balanced cast though. You got enough humor in there. You got enough guys that are just gonna like at any point implode and go at each other.
I mean, that's the dynamic of the Suicide Squad. Just a bunch of villains. There's no alliance. Just, hey, I don't want my head blown off. Let's work together. Logic.
I want to see how badass Waller's going to be. Sorry, that was a slip.
Yeah, so to be fair, compared to the first one, she's quite mouthy. I was actually, must admit, regarding the first one, I really wanted CCH Powder, who voiced her in like Justice League Unlimited and all that. I wanted her to play her, but after watching it for the first time, I was kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of glad she played her.
I kind of want them to bring back like the old school Waller, like if they were the recast, like just somewhere with a bit of a bigger build, because like Waller was like in body build, like her attitude, like she looked like she could take you out just by like talking to you, basically.
Right.
Like that intimidating presence is something that I really like about Waller. Like anytime she's interacting with Batman and like it's just like, I'll take you down versus like you first, and it's just like that perfect standoff. Because I feel like Waller should be that in like every aspect of the character.
All right, I suppose there is one question that remains. Will we see Joker pop up? Me personally, I don't think he will. I think Jared Leto is probably done with that.
People want
I don't think this
movie next.
It'll have to be the next, if not the next one, maybe one. If they do another one after that, I don't think Joker. We're gonna see him anytime soon.
I don't think we will. But then again, it just depends what Jeff Johns, Charles Roven, and everyone else at DC is cooking up with this soft reboot, if that's what it is. So, we've talked about one Suicide Squad, and I know it's not quite movie topic, but it is worth a discussion because I love Rocksteady. I have all three of their Batman games. I have the first two on PS3. So, we've seen the trailer, gents. What do we think for their new one coming out next year? I must admit, I'm feeling Injustice vibes.
I did, because the Brainiac ship at the beginning, that threw me off. I really thought that was going to be an Injustice 3 trailer, but I like what I saw.
Now, you see, I wasn't quite sure what it was. I mean, I should know because I have actually seen enough Superman DVDs with Brainiac in it. But I was like, I actually thought it was Legion of Doom. I don't know why, but I didn't realize it was Brainiac's ship. And it's like, oh God. Now you just mentioned that, it's just clicked in my head, and I'm like, oh no, that's it.
I figured
That's it.
Brainiac just took control of them, but I thought we'd see like the Brainiac symbol, the 3 circles.
Yeah.
As soon as Soups showed up, and it was just like, I figured it was just gonna be like, okay, it's just gonna be the standard like brawl with the League, and then when you see what Superman does to the helicopter pilot.
I really thought it was going to be Bizarro. I really like.
Cool.
Might still be actually.
Because they're hiding his face for a little bit. Oh, go ahead. See it. My fault.
Anyway, it was say they might do it that way. It just depends. I mean, to be fair, all we know is Superman lasered somebody, and that's it. It might not be him. It could be Bizarro. I mean, after all, 1992's I think it was in the 90s Superman's TV series, there was actually a Bizarro who literally looked exactly like Soups. He wasn't like a zombie or anything. He was just literally like plain old Soups, same costume, same hair, same look. It might even be that, to be honest.
See, I'm wondering where the other shoe's going to drop. Like, how did we get to the point where the Suicide Squad is trying to take out the League? Like, what has the League been doing? Like, is Lex Luthor involved? Maybe Brainiac is at large here, too. There's Grodd. There's a lot of options that could be thrown in.
Well, put it this way. Where Superman is. Lex Luthor won't be far behind. That.
Exactly.
I actually had Deadshot. I actually had him. I actually thought he was Deadpool for a minute. I'm like, why is he wearing Deadpool like attire? I'm like, this is supposed to be bloody Deadshot, not fucking Deadpool.
I had the same vibes. Like when I saw it, Boomerang looks like he's gonna have the interesting gameplay because he always have like, you see that electricity around him every time he's moving, and he's just like at top speeds. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious what that's gonna be about. I feel like he's gonna be like the quick time event kind of character. He's supposed to be a shooter.
Mind you, could be obviously with his boomerangs as well. He could very well be. But yeah, I loved my favorite bit is when Deadshot went, and then literally everyone else like, we know you never miss. It's like that's what Deadshot's known for. It's like he doesn't miss. Yes, we know.
Now, did we see gameplay for it yet? Or did I miss that? There's
no gameplay for it yet. It was more of a reveal. There is gameplay for Gotham Knights, which we will get into on the next topic.
Oh yes. But how do you think it's gonna play? How do we think Suicide Squad is gonna play? Like, is it gonna have the same dynamic as, say, Avengers that's about to come out?
If it's done by Rocksteady, they will. I would imagine that they will do it. They will treat it like another Batman game, like they did with the other 3. I would. If formula's not, if it's not broken, why fix it? Why try something else?
Right.
I hope it's not like a first-person thing, since they're saying it's gonna be a shooter game. I actually would like to see the characters on screen, like doing the little actions, like when Deadshot runs out of ammo and he's like connecting the wrist cannons and stuff, or like see like eject ammo off and like land it back in, like just little details like that. I like to see like Boomerang catch the boomerang, make a smart remark, and then just like whip it back around.
All right, you two are the comic book experts. Can you see any plot whatsoever that might explain the setting of it?
Not this one. Actually, I'm still trying to like piece together like how the League would have like gone bad to the point where, I mean, then again, think about it, Waller's involved with this, so there could be a lot of nefarious acts involved with this.
It could be another dimension, because we had that, didn't we? Because where there's Batman, there's Owlman. So yeah. I really doubt that it's going to be like an alternate dimension. I mean, it might be, because after all, this is DC. Anything's possible. It's comic book land. Anything's possible.
I kind of hope Maxwell Lord's like in league with it, just because we haven't seen any like Brainiac tech on anyone. So if it's something like that, like a Maxwell Lord coming into like a higher level of power, then I could see it, because he's taken control of Superman before, and Diana had to like literally take him out in order to break that. So I'm kind of hoping we'll see more villains step up than just Brainiac here.
It would actually be nice, if I may, gents. It would actually be nice if we had a villain who we haven't actually seen before, because obviously Superman and Lex Luthor does get a bit old. I mean, I've been watching Superman stuff since the 90s. In fact, New Adventures of Superman in the 90s, they got rid of Lex Luthor after one season. That was the best move they ever made, because he did come back, I must admit, but when he wasn't there, there was other villains to fill the void, and they got their chance to shine. So hopefully Lex Luthor will not be as much of a part of it as we kind of hope he is.
He should really be built as like a longevity type character. You want to like have him have a hand in it, but he's never really truly revealed. I think that's the best use for Lex Luthor, because you can have him throw some pawns in there, like a Doctor Doom-esque. It's like Doom has Doombots. Have Lex have his technology, his tech involved with it, alongside maybe like a B-lister here, a C-lister there. Just have him have influence, and then when we get to like big events, like crossover events, have Lex Luthor. Oh, I'm behind it all the time, and just go with that route. I think writing is at play here. We need better writing.
Well, one thing I do hope, chaps, is that it is sort of like a Superman villain or a Justice League villain that's not really mentioned that much. But one that's not mentioned a lot. I mean, obviously, animated wise, we've had Brainiac a few times. We haven't had Bizarro, as far as I can tell. Lex Luthor's obviously in it near enough every single place you go. I mean, Metallo, it's Metallo. It is Metallo, isn't it? He's been on the CW quite a bit as well.
Yep. We could use Starro too. Starro would be good. Mixapitolix, Mr. If I saying it right, Mr.
Yeah,
Mixapitolix.
I know what you mean. He's actually been on Supergirl, so I would actually agree with who you said, actually, just for a change of pace.
I'd like Parasite to show up. Or Atomic Skull.
Now we're talking.
Have we got anything else to add with Rocksteady's hopefully soon to be hit, or shall we move it on to the other Batman game?
I mean, as far as Suicide Squad goes, I really hope it plays similar to that Avengers game that's coming out. That way, because you have different options, like for shooters, like that's in general, like there's just different capabilities for the character versus just a cut and dry 2-button access.
I want Black Manta for it. I'm hoping he's gonna show up.
That's a good choice too.
Could do, actually. Right then, chaps, we've talked about one DC Universe game. Should we talk about the other one? Now, this one, I should point out, there has actually been footage of, so we have actually seen what it's going to play like. I must admit, coming from Warner Brothers, is it Warner Brothers Montreal?
I think it's Warner Brothers Montreal.
Didn't they do Arkham Origins?
I believe they did do Origins, yes.
You see, that for me was not a good selling point, because there's so much wrong with Arkham Origins. It was too big, it was just too long, there was too much Bane. That's just for starters. But the beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and I must admit, what I've seen, it looks absolute quality. The trailer looks pretty good because it's not focused on Batman, it's focused on everyone else. And the gameplay actually focuses on Batgirl and Mr. Freeze. One thing I will say, I love the idea of co-op. I really do.
It's long overdue because, this dynamic duo approach, there's always two. I mean, Batman usually, in most spots, he takes care of everything himself. But, he's going to need help, especially with everybody that's involved in this game now. Co-op was a must. It had to happen.
One thing I will say, I'm really curious as to what other villains are going to be involved, because we know Mr. Freeze is involved. And we obviously know that the Court of Owls are obviously involved, because who it was on the last part. But being a Batman game, you obviously have a lot more side missions. I mean, how many did Arkham Knight have? It had a lot.
It did.
So the question is, who is going to be the other side missions? If they left Joker off, I wouldn't be annoyed, and I would actually welcome it.
Now, when we say this, Um, according to the end, the end of night, end of all the other Batman games, like what should Joker be involved? He's supposed to be dead. If Batman is dead, Joker should still remain dead.
Yeah.
But we got to see who's left. Like you mentioned the side missions of Arkham Knight, but like at the fruition of these missions, like who was really left to could cause all this? Are we still? Is it going from that game? Is it just a whole new thing itself?
I know the answer to that, and it is not. The guy, I think one of the creators who's created it has actually said that it is not in the Arkham universe, so it's actually a separate story.
Okay.
So the opportunities are limitless.
I'm hoping we see the Church of Dumas, because we did see Azrael last time.
Yeah.
And I would love to see Ulysses come in as, like, remember in Nightfall when he took on the mantle of Batman?
Yes, he did. Yeah, I remember that.
I'd love to see him come in and he's like going up against Nightwing and all of them and has like the high tech decked out suit and everything. Because it would be nice to like see more of the elements they haven't used, because there's so many good characters that Arkham hasn't even like touched.
Arkham did put a lot of Easter eggs in Asylum. I mean, Ratcatcher was one of them. He hasn't been seen. I know Poison Ivy was sort of sent stage, but I wouldn't mind her being sort of involved at some point. By the way, may I just point out the Arkham version of Poison Ivy was probably the fittest Poison Ivy I've ever seen. She would literally, if she told me kiss me and you'll live forever, I would kiss her straight away no matter what.
I would let her get the KI out in the word kiss and I would go for
it. See, we're all agreeing here. Arkham Knight did it right, whereas everyone else has done it wrong.
I mean, typically, most women in these games, in the Arkham series, like Talia, oh my goodness. Catwoman delivers every time. I'd take a run at Harley. You know how crazy she is.
So, yeah, but who do we think we would like to see in side missions?
I'm a little tired of Riddler in these games. I know he's good as a side mission guy, but we don't need Riddler for this game.
It does actually look like he might be popping up because there's like a mission that involves tricks and it involves a lot of sharp objects. So I have a feeling he might be involved. Not that I want him to be, because playing 3 lots of bloody Arkham games with him as like the worst guy ever to actually finish the game off, I do not want to see him again. We probably will, but let's face it, we all know that he will. We know that.
I would almost trade him out. Oh, go ahead.
I want to see more of the gangs of Gotham rising up. Like, with Batman gone, you think there'd be more people fighting for territory. Bruce Wayne is gone, so you think there'd be a massive takeover of his company. Because even they said in the game, they're using the outdated tech to fight crime right now.
Yeah.
So I want to see the gangs more of a factor and like actually getting civilians out of the way.
Yeah, I think that was actually mentioned in the trailer for it, because one gang like hammers on a church, which actually doesn't look out of place in the Arkham series, and there's actually a woman who basically is standing in front of a door petrified. So you might get your wish on that point.
Because I feel like a lot of the mobsters in the game got the back seat. Like, we didn't even see Bruce pretending to be like Matches Malone, like walking into places. Yeah, so I would like to see like the power struggle more so than just the villains. Like I'd like to see like Cobblepot doing like, in the movies where all the guys who own gangs are sitting in like a dinner party thing, and then you could have like Nightwing or like Tim or someone like drop down on the table for like a bit of the dramatics.
Right. Yeah, kind of like in Punisher Warzone when the mob families were assembled for a meal and Frank Castle just shoots the shit out of them.
Because Gotham, you can utilize anything, like every villain down to like even like the purse snatchers and stuff. Like there's always been interesting stuff. Like I'd like to see Ratcatcher come in and like chasing him through the sewers and just like bring back some of the fun that we don't really get in some of these Batman games.
I would almost trade Riddler out for Calendar Man, to be honest.
Yeah, he was kind of underused a lot. I mean, there was a Bat Trophy in Arkham City, and there was actually a stupid trophy where basically you set your clock or reset your PlayStation 3 clock to every single day that was circled on a calendar. That was ridiculous.
Hmm.
Well, the comics is something interesting with him actually. Every holiday he actually gets renewed, so he'll be like younger, stronger. He like sheds his skin. It's a new approach they took recently. I would like if the holidays came around, if you got like the missions to try and stop him.
Yeah.
Instead of just like an Easter egg where like I come and see him and he's just like talking about random stuff until he finally gets out.
I will say one point, chaps. I did when you actually mentioned the Riddler, it sort of gave me a bit of an inkling. It's like if there's no Batman, why would Riddler be anywhere near it? Because remember, Riddler has always tried to prove that Batman is not as smart as he is.
Right.
Well, an interesting thing is Tim Drake's considered just as smart as Bruce. So if he's the same way in this universe, I could see the Riddler trying to best him because in Gotham City Sirens, when Dick Grayson was Batman, there's a conversation where like he's trying to like top Batman, like he knows it's not actually him, and Dick and him are going back and forth. And at the end of the conversation, he leaves, and he knows it's not him. And you hear Dick like talking to Barbara, where they're like, "Man, I'm glad you got me all that info quickly," because he's like having everything come through the headset as they're going back and forth.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a fair point.
Because Tim is actually technically the heir to a lot of Bruce's stuff, because his name is Tim Drake Wayne. And when Bruce goes missing, Tim basically steps in to like make sure all of Bruce's finances and his company keeps going. So there's always like that one Bat family member you would try the top.
So is this Robin Tim Drake or is that Damian?
I'm pretty sure it's Tim Drake.
It's Tim Drake.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's Tim Drake because I don't think Damian Wayne's name was mentioned.
I would like to see Damian show up though, because like if Raish is actually gone, it'd be interesting to see like Damian hit in town. I was kind of hoping they were going to do like a battle for the cowl type thing.
That would actually be interesting for a side mission itself. There is something I'm not sure. I'm quite unsure about, chaps. Is Kevin Conroy voicing Batman?
I don't think they've said. I'm not entirely
sure it's him.
He sounded very close. I'm not sure. There's no telling right now.
I suppose we can find out sooner or later. But then again, I could always mail him on Twitter and ask him. Probably easy enough. I'll make that my mission for the week. See if I can get him on Twitter. If this time next week comes and I haven't got him, I failed, and I will apologise in advance.
Challenge accepted.
To be fair, we could always go by the motto of he is Batman until we hear otherwise.
I mean, yeah, we can go that way.
There's probably a bit more we want to do, chaps, but I want to end it, and I want to finish with probably the shortest trailer we had, which was Black Adam starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
That's just a whole ball of speculation there.
Now, to be fair, I actually was quite impressed with this because you're basically getting the idea of how he became Black Adam to start with. So it's kind of like, right, this is basically a paradise where, say, 3/4 of the people are enslaved, which obviously we see Black Adam originally is. And what was it? How does Dwayne say it? The people wanted a hero and they got me, which is kind of like, oh God, that's it. What has he done?
Well, originally he was Tef Adam, and then before he's Black Adam, I think he went by the name, I think he was the Mighty Adam, and then he had like the fall and became Black Adam, and then him and the Wizard Shazam fought each other, as we saw the Wizard at the end there. So I think we're going to see like the rise and fall of Black Adam here before he ends up in like the modern day where him and Billy will eventually clash.
Yeah, right. You could actually say that it's kind of like a Scorpion King in the DC universe, but then it's sort of like Captain America's rebirth, if you like. When our first Avenger went, when he was frozen, but he was defrosted and he came back. So you could think of it as like that.
Because if you think about it, Black Adam is like that cautionary tale of what Billy Batson could have ultimately been when he got the powers if he wasn't careful. That's why they were looking for like someone pure of heart.
But is it going to be a bit of a mismatch? Because I love Zachary Levi, but let's face it, Dwayne Johnson is 50 and he weighs 270 and he's built like a fucking horse.
I think that works though, because like Billy is pretty inexperienced, and like Black Adam being like that full-on warrior, it really does like show you the difference between the two generations of the power of Shazam.
But then again, you don't want a movie where it's going to be like one-sided all the time, except for at the very end where somehow Shazam finds his inner strength and defeats Adam, because that would just be a bit too obvious and a bit pointless.
Plus, Billy's technically weakened. The more people he gives to, he's technically pulling down his power stack. So he technically has a full team to fight Black Adam. And in the New 52, he needed all of his family to even like take down Black Adam. So it's more of the Shazam family versus him. So it will lead to some interesting matchups.
I mean, that might even be happening for all we know. They've probably done Black Adam and filmed the first one and had that specifically in mind for it.
I'm liking the involvement of the Justice Society. Like, I've not seen a hint of Hawkman in a movie, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, he was actually in Legends, wasn't he, Phrase? But ultimately, they wrote him and Hawkgirl out after one series with not much of an explanation. So, I suppose you could say if Hawkman is in the DCEU, it would actually be nice.
Yeah, they were only in like the first season. It was just him and Shire basically finding their way back to each other, and then it was just like they bolted because they got rid of him. Then he came back, and then they haven't been seen since. And then they basically just became like a footnote in all of this. I don't even think we saw them in any of the crossovers after.
Right. But I'm liking the involvement of the Justice Society. I think that's a good little counterbalance for him. As you know, we're getting to know Black Adam a little bit. Shazam's not ready. Shazam's not ready for that quite yet.
Is anyone ever ready for Dwayne Johnson? Let's be honest.
I can't wait till Mr. Mind steps up.
So.
Because like the Monster Society, like that story went on for like 2 years. He has eaten like parts of the multiverse before.
Nice.
So it'll be interesting to see how the Shazam family will handle that. Like once he goes like full on Mr. Mind, where like reality itself is at risk.
All right. Just before we, have you got anything else to add, chaps? Because I do have a quick question before we wrap up.
No, go ahead.
All right. We know Justice League was a bit of hit and miss. We know there's a Snyder cut coming, and obviously at the end we have Lex Luthor and Slade Wilson, and we mentioned an Injustice League. So my question to you two, being the comic book geeks that you are, and you know just about everything, do you honestly think that we will see a Justice League versus Injustice Society in the DCEU? And I will, before you answer, have you been watching Stargirl, Phrase?
Yeah, I've been watching Stargirl.
The Injustice Society's in that, which is kind of crossing my mind, but it's sort of like, well, we don't want two just Injustice Societies, one on TV and one on film. So do you think we'll see a Justice League versus an Injustice Society?
I don't think we'll see it in the films. I can see them using the Legion of Doom
Even
for
though
like the movies.
Yes. Even though the Legion of Doom was already used in Legends Season 2, I think it was.
Because there's a lot they can do. Even if they just like take one of the other names, they could basically just use like the Crime Syndicate and just like use that for the films. But we've seen Superman like on both. We've seen him on the movies. We've seen him on the TV show played by two different actors. So they could potentially use either team.
Well,
if you think about it, though.
Carry on, Mike.
Okay, if you think about it, though, they've started using the League, and especially in the Arrowverse. You know, with that big table when everybody was sitting there when Arrow passed. Yeah, they tried the League in the TV show, and they're doing the League in the cinema. I mean, which is the better league in your opinion?
TV's
been pretty good, but I don't know. I think the movie one could eventually fill the role that they should be, but I'll go with the TV one for now. Like they got Black Lightning, they had Green Arrow, the Flash. Like they got pretty much all the heavy hitters right now.
Yeah, the roster is basically set, whereas in the DCEU, it's barely begun. You've got what? Flash, Wonder Woman, Supes, Aquaman, Batman, Cyborg. That's it. That's all you have. Whereas in TV, there's what? Supergirl, Flash, Superman, Black Lightning, and everyone else who's in the DC TV universe. And the other thing is, there's more series because there's Titans, there's Stargirl as well.
And they're working on the Green Lantern Corps movie too. Jeff Johns is writing that, so we'll get Green Lantern soon.
All right. Do we think Diggle will be Green Lantern?
I heard for the HBO Max series that he'll be Green Lantern.
Good.
Now that's actually quite nice because it continues the Arrowverse saga off and can paint Diggle in a very good light as well. Not that he wasn't in a good light before.
And the Batman is getting like a prequel series where they're going to pull from the Gotham Central comics where it's more about the GCPD. So I heard that's going to be like a lead-in for the Batman.
Yeah, the only thing that I really want from this DC fandom is a bit of news about where Batwoman's going. We know it's a different Batwoman. We know it's nothing to do with Kate Kane, but still, it just would be nice for a bit of direction.
I would just really rather than pull the trigger already and give us Batman for TV. I mean, we tried it with Gotham, and we at the very end, he was suited and booted. But I would like him to go further. This movie rights problem and all that good stuff. But I would like if they're gonna go with the league, do it right. Like add Batman, throw him in.
Yeah, I think how it works is DC TV are basically given or say rent out heroes. So that's why Superman was in it for a couple of episodes, and then he was gone. Then he came back because there's not really any Superman movies doing at the minute. But whereas with Batman, it's constant.
Well, Hush did show up in Batwoman. Like he, spoiler by the way, has Bruce's face now because they revealed Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
So they could have just had like this after Nightfall where like Bruce is messed up, like how we saw Kevin Conroy, and they could have just had him in the brace and had Batwoman standing in for him up until like this point. Then they could have just had like Bruce find a Lazarus Pit, recover and everything. Like if we saw his journey to that, and then come back to Gotham, and then he could have just like donned the suit, went back to work.
But we'll have to see how that pans out. Because to be fair, nobody only knows except the guys who make the Arrowverse. So they'll have all the answers, and which we do not. So on that rather sad note, we must end. So for a shout out for all our socials, I'm obviously Dino. You will find me on Final Cut Talk and Final Cut Gaming on Twitter. You'll find me on Insta under Final Cut, I think it is, and I'm on Facebook on Final Cut Reviews, which was funny because the one we just did previously, I couldn't even remember the name of my own Facebook group.
You can find me on Twitter at 5-Star Wildcard and on Instagram at Beautiful Michael.
You can find me on Facebook at Mike Gulliford. I mean, I'm still getting my social media presence up. So, hey, look for me. Look for me here. I'm sure to enjoy you, make you smile. We're going to do good things. We're going to do them.
So on that rather enlightening touch of comic books from my two co-hosts, from me and from them, goodbye and good night.